Well, welcome to the Pacific Northwest Farmers Cooperative's grain market review of the USDA crop report. We have Shane Riebel, Trudi Allenbaugh, and myself, Randy Olstead here. Trudi, we have a little disclaimer here in front of us.
Yes, want everyone to know that the views and the opinions of this program are those of the hosts and are for informational purposes only. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which should be carefully considered prior to trading.
Thank you, Trudi. Well, I just want to jump in this crop report. It was quite a surprise to me. I guess I'm the optimist, so I'm always trying to be hopeful that maybe there isn't that much corn in, but maybe you can help us with this corn number. I mean, 7 billion bushels of production. The yield last month was 181. Now it's 188.
0.8.
Or 0.8, yeah. So it's a record across the board. I mean, it was over 1 billion bushel increase. Month in a month. I mean, there's 2 million more acres seeded. I mean, apparently 2 million acres is kind of hard to count, but those are the kind of things that are, kind of a shocking today, but it definitely reacted. And so what does this really mean, Trudy?
Yeah, I was kind of put the same things down here as the surprises, and you're exactly right. Not only was, and the yield was at the top end of the expectations, which I think that the market could have digested that pretty easily. But then you go, okay, you've increased a record number of planted acres, record yield. USDA had to increase the use by over 500 million bushels just to get to the carry out at 2.117. So, that just is just
billion bushels.
Billion bushels. Yeah, let's repeat that.
That's a lot.
Billion. So I just think that is kind of a big number for, where do we go from here? I'm actually shocked that corn wasn't limiting down today, but it was only to close down 15. So I just think that, when you shift that over to what does that look like for the rest of the commodities and wheat, we're out here in wheat world, what does that do? And obviously it feels like a bit of a boat anchor right now, but, time is going to be the main factor on that and where this corn crop actually goes in the bin at.
Yeah, I mean, what they printed a number, right? Doesn't mean it's going to be producing the number, but it definitely, the potential's out there. The conditions of, over July as far as rain in the Corn Belt was definitely good, and everybody's, been pretty optimistic about it. But I think the big shocker was the additional 2 million acres, and it really reflected on soybeans. Soybeans were up strong today, and I was really disappointed on canola. Really didn't partake in the rally. Shane, could you help me with that?
Yeah, I think it was just because some political things lined up. China put in anti-dumping or duties onto canola seed itself at 75.8%. There were already duties. We talked about last year how China implemented tariffs or duties against canola meal and canola oil in retaliation to electric vehicles getting a tariff from the Canadian government. Now, this August, China threw on a duty on canola seed itself.
So it's not only, this is just Canada, and it's not only the oil, but it's the seeds now itself, where before they were kind of getting by with.
There was a loophole and they could sneak in because, China really loves their canola oil and they have their own crush plants. So they were kind of mitigating some of that, but now they just kind of threw it on there.
So you see the potential, probably in the short term, we're going to see some pressure on some basis or prices for U.S. just because of Canada's obviously going to have to use some more domestic stocks to try to get rid of that. And
they're going to have to eat up. It wasn't a boomer crop up there, but it was still an average crop that they're going to deal with this year. And now where's it going to find a home at? So futures were off 6.5%. In the Canadian futures, it was a pretty good slump. Talking to some other traders, it seems like this might be just a hopefully knee-jerk reaction. We'll kind of test the waters tomorrow, get a little bit of that money back, and we'll see what the actual number is now. I think everybody just sucked in real hard.
So where do you think the offsetting canola seeds come from for China's use? Is it any chance of U.S. or?
Possibly. I asked AI, as silly as that sounds. U.S. doesn't export a bunch of canola into China. We have our own trade issues going on. It is a possibility some feeds over there, but I think Australia has been a growing market for them. Australia's continued to grow canola over these last couple of years, increased acres over year. So I know that some Australian canola was moving north when this originally broke loose, and I would place my money that Australia's trying to feed into as much as they can.
Okay, well, I promise not to get too political here, but
Can't wait. I'm ready.
Yeah, today, Trump announced, or at least he posted on True Social about, we need to quadruple China needs to buy, 4 times as much soybeans from the United States. If this is true or not, or just hype, it's kind of hard to say. But you got to see that China has been, buying mostly Brazilian beans, right? And now that they're really having this argument with Canada, maybe there's an opportunity to get some exports. But I just don't think there's enough canola in the U.S. to really have a really big export program, is there?
No, I don't think so. I think we fulfill all of our own needs with what plants are built in the U.S., even so much that some Canadian canola actually comes down into our market via rail.
Right.
So
right. There might be more of that than,
we can see
go
more of
around
that.
the end way, just be North America canola so they can, get it to the market where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I had that on my notes, so I'm glad that you said that because it was the okay, if we're going to quadruple the soybean exports, then is this the actual something? And in all seriousness, though, this could be the catalyst that makes maybe if some beans actually moved out of the U.S. to China, more so kind of in that soy oil, getting some of that just bean crush stuff going through there. So,
okay.
But I was going to poke the quadruple fine
Yeah.
a little bit too. So
He's a lot of things, I'll tell you that. But he seems to be shaking things up, and for if it's good or bad, I might just hopefully it's good for us. As far as agriculture in general, and he's definitely going after it. But that's all politics now. But I think the biggest issue we got right now is that we're looking at a very large corn crop. Corn is king for a reason, right? And so, corn is always our floor to wheat. And so, with our floor kind of falling away from us, are we getting enough demand from white wheat? We're starting to see, our traditional demand come to us right now. There's just been enough to kind of keep things going. Our producer or our members are not selling that much wheat, because it's the insurance program game that everybody's kind of waiting on. What's your outlook? What do you think is going to be moving forward, Trudi?
yeah, what my outlook for wheat is maybe, it's not super bullish, but it's maybe not quite as bearish. And there's a couple reasons why. If you look at the crop report, it really was fairly neutral to almost bullish to wheat. Even in the white wheat production, they reduced production by 7 million bushels. We all feel it out here in the PNW, as far as dryness or drought or whatever you want to call it, we have less production. So I think that's something that is a little bit positive. But, so the balance sheets moved around a little bit. Mostly there was less production in wheat. And if you look at the last few weeks, we definitely have had robust export sales of wheat every week, white wheat being one of them. So is it a floor? Yes. Do we, how low do we go? Again, I'm shocked that we weren't limited down on corn. Does that mean we're going to grind lower? Maybe. Does that mean maybe we don't have to be $4 cheaper on corn? Maybe we don't see $3 corn. Maybe we only see $3.50 corn. What does that do to wheat? So I guess I look at it, go and look for opportunity. There's going to be some short covering rallies. Make sure you participate in them, whether it's for 26 crop, if it's a bump in cash, but until you really know what your insurance number is, I think we're still in that range bound market, and I don't really see us breaking out of it.
Yeah. My gut's telling me, 605 is looking like a really good number right now. And I know we've had 620 and 625 in front of us, but, last year we were 585. And, it's like, okay, maybe we should start feeding this thing because we're always marketing last year's crop. I think that's a kind of a trap we could get ourselves into. But white wheat can go on its own. We've seen it before in the past. It's, the other thing was surprising about this report was that they really didn't change any production in the Southern Hemisphere. We've been hearing some pretty good rains in Australia. We've been hearing some pretty good, growing conditions in Argentina, and they left the Australian crop at 31 million, which is large, but it's, it's not 34. And so that was kind of, surprising. And then U.S. white wheat carryover was decreased by 7 million bushel. Maybe it's more. We got some business going on. Hard red winter wheat's been taking a lot of that business away from us as far as cheapest wheat.
Yeah.
But maybe they're going to.
Most of that increase in or decrease in production was because of hard red winter exports. Like almost all of it. So you had some moving around and I said white wheat by 7 million bushels was reduced, for us out here, but also you had an increase in spring wheat and you had an increase in soft red winter but exports by 25 million for hard red, that makes the balance sheet go down for all wheat. So it's a good thing. And they've been selling it.
Yeah. So, but as far as our closing thoughts to this market, I guess, Shane, where do you think this? Or what's your strategy right now with canola?
With canola, I'm holding off today. If we can get back into the 19s and throwing a layer in, I'm going to preach the same song I've been singing all since the start. 19 to $20, I'd be selling a good chunk of it. Layer it in. I might keep a quarter just to kind of see how things shake out next spring. If we're going to be short, if the Canadian crop's a little shorter than what they thought, we'll see the squeeze then. But I might be, if I'm in the black, I might be taking my money if I can get to 19 to 20.
And Trudi?
Yeah, I think outlook, I wrote down here so I didn't forget to say it, is that we have a couple of months until they start harvesting corn, and you got two USD reports to adjust that number. So, when you're talking about record numbers, we got to see it first. So there could be a lot of things that happen, with wheat as well. Again, just outlook, I'd say keep watching for rallies, participate in them. I still think we're going to be range bound. If we do have that size of a corn crop, wheat is going to struggle to be above some of these levels that we've seen already. So just look for opportunity.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier. Their hope's a bad place to have them in marketing plans, and I'm not. I've always hoped for better markets, but I've never been so bearish before. And I'm an optimist, and it's really difficult for me. I feel like I should be a seller right now, because I need the cash, or I think if I was a grower, I'd need the cash, and if I wanted to cover myself, I'd probably be buying options, or I'd even be tempted enough to look at some of these new contracts, these flex contracts that we have. So if you have any questions about anything like that, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But I think I agree with Trudi and with Shane. I think we need to sell any rally. I think this market's going to be flat. I think it's going to be flat to lower, to be honest with you. But I've been generally always wrong. So this might be good news for everybody. But that's kind of where I'm at. So that's how I look at it. But anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you.